An Analysis of Frankenstein by Laura Crook and Rebecca Stevenson.
Mary Shelley's juxtaposition of Frankenstein and his monster reveals the ambiguity found in a societal definition of civility.
At the beginning of the novel, the monster lacked the basic verbal skills necessary to communicate with society around him. This resulted in his isolation from social interaction, which would further classify him as incivil. He used his time alone to reflect upon what he desired, and that was to learn the language of humans. Through observation of the de Lacy family, a group considered civil, the monster was able to study and learn language. His eloquence grew as he listened in on their conversations and studied books and notes that he had found in the pocket of Victor's jacket. By the end of the novel, the monster was able to successfully communicate with members of society, closer associating him with civility. In comparison, Victor was able to speak several different languages, as he was very intelligent, creating this illusion of civility. However, he was brought down by his incapability of social interaction, and he grew to be more and more isolated from society, and he turned into a recluse. By the end of the novel, the two characters were no better than one another when it came to eloquence or kindness towards other humans. The line between civility and incivility blurs as their levels of linguistic intelligence become more equal. In his younger years, Victor repressed his sexuality and put more focus into his academic work. He moved away from the girl he intended to marry, his cousin Elizabeth, and went to study at the University of Ingolstadt in Germany. He ignored the desire for social interaction and intimacy and created the monster instead, leading him to fall ill. Victor's solitude plagued him and left him caught up in his own mind. The attention from his good friend Henry Clerval helped heal him and open his eyes to the positives of exposure to people. His repressed sexuality buds into a very loving relationship between himself and Henry and fuels his recovery. As his physical state improves, his desire for interaction with Elizabeth grows, and he participates more in society than remaining isolated in his studies. When he returns home, he marries Elizabeth, whom he considers the source of all his happiness. He is finally expressing his sexuality, although the relationship may be considered incestuous, as he considered Elizabeth to be his sister while growing up. On the other hand, the monster is very upfront about his sexual desires. He wishes for the de Lacy family to show him love. They reject him based off of his appearance, and he is left upset as his desires were turned down, but he does not attempt to ask again. Later on, when confronting Victor, the monster demands the creation of a female monster as grotesque as he, so that he can love her. Victor eventually turns him down, and the monster suffers once again from loneliness.
When comparing Victor and the monster's civility, we must end with a comparison of mental state. A societal definition of a civilized, rational mental state would be one of logic and learning. A savage mental state would be much more instinctual, brutal, and emotional. Both Victor and his monster display both of these mindsets during the duration of the novel. We begin with an examination of the monster. He begins life sensitive only to the most basic instincts of light, dark, hunger, and thirst. He describes himself as learning to distinguish between the operations of my various senses. This natural state of mind has no place for higher thinking. However, as the monster becomes more aware, he's able to read novels and communicate eloquently. He's able to learn rational thinking. In his dealings with Victor, he uses cunning and manipulation, higher-level thinking skills, in order to argue for his rights. As easily as the monster transitions from savage to civil, Frankenstein transitions in the opposite direction. He grows up an avid reader and learner. He has all the privilege of an educated family. Upon his arrival to Ingolstadt, he quickly becomes their most lauded scholar, as he has more access to education than he has ever had before. His preoccupation with pseudoscience is replaced by his own highly successful experiments. His privileged beginning over that of the monster contributes to his civil and rational outlook. However, his obsession with logical science causes his mental downfall. After creating the monster, Victor's mind and body totally fail him for months. He is brought low to the level of one just recognizing basic needs in illness. In juxtaposing the mental states of these two characters, Shelley reveals the ambiguity that exists between wanting for basic needs alone and being able to rationalize, manipulate, and argue. Both characters show both traits. After careful examination of the societal definition of civility, Neither Victor nor his monster is totally civilized or totally savage. They both lack logical thought and rational action in certain situations. Although Victor started out much more privileged and positioned for success, the monster learns the same skills, like language, through his own search. Their lust for women, although displayed differently, is the same basic instinct. In the end, the mental state of the monster may be even better than that of Victor. Shelley invokes a sense of ambiguity in juxtaposing these seemingly unlike, however, very similar characters. They are both mixtures of civility and savagery. Shelley implies that societal definitions of civility are useless, as they can be applied equally to a man and his monster.